Dopey, I'm face down on the floor. Dopey, please sir, can I have some more? Dopey, I said Dopey. Dopey, it was good for a laugh. Dopey, but then the drugs wore off. Dopey, I said Dopey. I'm on a highway to my next stop. I'm gonna tip my truck to see my town and say, give me a ticket, I can kiss my ass goodbye. Dopey, I'm going all the way. Dopey, because it's my birthday. Dopey, I said I'm dopey.
This episode of Dopey is brought to you by Oro Recovery, located in sunny Southern California, in Malibu, and Silver Lake, and somewhere in Western Los Angeles. Oro was created by our good friend Bob Forrest and his friends Evan, Jared, and Bob. Their mission to create a facility that treats addicts and alcoholics with connection and compassion instead of control. They've had decades and decades and decades of experience treating co-occurring mental health disorders, including severe mental illness. They make sure that your detox is as comfortable as it possibly can be, which is critical when you're kicking horrible drugs and alcohol, as we all know. And they have amenities that you wouldn't believe. Fucking sound bath meditation, the fucking surfing, equine therapy, and of course, the potentially spiritually transformative sweat lodge. That's a lot of good stuff in one place. If you're fucked and you're willing to go to sunny Southern California, I cannot suggest Oro enough. This episode of Dopey is also brought to you by our very good friends at SoberLink. In using SoberLink, somebody cares about your recovery. Unfortunately, relapse is so common, especially when it comes to alcohol, because it is widely available and highly prevalent in many social settings. That's why having true accountability and a deterrent from drinking is so important for staying sober. SoberLink has been empowering and helping people with alcohol use disorder since 2011 and is trusted by hundreds of treatment facilities. The SoberLink system consists of a portable, handheld device that documents proof of sobriety in real time, keeping you connected to your family, friends, sponsor, treatment professional, recovery coach, or anyone else who worries about your well-being. As an exclusive offer to our listeners, email info@soberlink.com and mention Dopey for $50 off your device. Do it for that someone who cares, and let SoberLink help you to stay off of the sauce. This episode of Dopey is also brought to you by our very good friends at Knockin' Doors Down. Knockin' Doors Down is a podcast with the mission to end the stigma around addiction and mental health with humorous, honest, and vulnerable conversations featuring guest celebrities, experts, and everyday people. Celebrity guests sharing their stories of addiction and mental health issues include Charlie Sheen, Bam Margera, Kelly Osbourne, AJ McLean from the Backstreet Boys, Cheryl Burke from Dancing with the Stars, Denise Richards, Gary Busey, Butch Patrick from the Munsters, and me, Dave from Dopey. You can check them out wherever you get your podcasts. It's hosted by Jason, who's in recovery for addiction, childhood trauma, sexual trauma, and a family lineage of addiction, and co-hosted by Mikey, who struggles with substance abuse and mental health issues, including depression and anxiety. For more information about Knockin' Doors Down and for being able to see them on YouTube, you just go to kddpodcast.com. That is kddpodcast.com. Hello and welcome to Dopey, the podcast on drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. My name is Dave. Hope you guys are well. It is a beautiful November day, unseasonably warm, global warming November day. And very excited to bring the Dopey, but I'm going to bring the bougie now. And basically, I need to talk about fucking Hamilton, all right? I apologize. I need to talk about Hamilton. Last year, my dad bought Nora tickets for us to go see Hamilton, and then COVID happened, and we didn't go. So like a year and a half later, we got the tickets, and my whole family went into Manhattan to go see Hamilton. My father took Susan to the Museum of Natural History, which she was incredibly excited to go. And my dad took her to the planetarium, and she had a fit because she was scared the planetarium was leaving the Earth to go to space, and she cried and said, "Grandpa Allen, I don't want to leave Earth," and which was great. My dad and Susan bonded. They got McDonald's, and me and Linda and Nora went to Times Square. And like, I swear to God, Times Square is like a bad acid trip. It is terrible. You know, I don't know how people spend time there. I'm the kind of person, like, I don't mind Times Square, but I walk through. I don't hang out at Times Square. Linda likes Times Square. She likes watching a train wreck. And the train wreck of Times Square is like the future, like just the most frightening version of the future with these, you know, people in fake Mickey Mouse costumes and fake Transformers costumes begging for money. The naked cowboys still there at age 50. And now there's these like naked cowgirls with him. It feels like the end of the world. It all feels very Back to the Future too to me. And then we regrouped and we went to go see Hamilton. And I swear to God, it was like incredible. I cried my eyes out at Hamilton. And, you know I am an incredibly heroic figure to a lot of you. I'm very hardcore. You don't think of me as this bougie Hamilton going guy. I don't want to let any of you guys down that I cried my eyes out in Hamilton. But before I talk about that, I want to talk about when I first saw it, a year and a half ago, Disney Plus put it out. And it was around the time where that kid, William, who died in the Dopey Nation, and he loved Hamilton. And he was really interested that I was liking Hamilton, and I wanted to talk to him about it, and then he died. And I love Hamilton for a lot of reasons. The first reason is because, as I've said this many times, just to be my own version of a humble bragger, the guy who created it, excuse me, a guy named Lin-Manuel Miranda, went to my elementary school and my high school, which I'm very proud of. This guy is like a genius. He had the same music teacher as me. Also, the dude who wrote Frozen went to my same elementary school and high school, and he had the same music teacher as me. And you know she was telling them something that she didn't tell me, because maybe I should have written Dopey the musical. But anyway, I digress. When I watched the fucking Hamilton on Disney Plus, it made me feel very emotional about Dopey and about the Dopey Nation, because Hamilton is very much about the creation of America. And maybe I'm being overly grandiose, but I really felt this thing connecting, them creating America and me and Chris creating the Dopey Nation. I know it's very grandiose. And one of the songs they say, raise a glass to the four of us, because tomorrow there'll be more of us. And it still gives me the chills because of everybody that's come along our journey, that started with just me and Chris. And now it's so many people who are so invested. And there's just so many things in Hamilton that I think are like recovery related. Like one of the songs they say, look around how lucky you are to be alive right now. And just a million things. So, I mean, forgive my bouginess. Forgive me. If you thought I was incredibly hardcore, I'm sorry to disappoint you. And if not, go see Hamilton. It's really good. I think I'm going to watch it again on Disney Plus this weekend. But it's funny because just before I started recording, I was talking to producer Sam about Hamilton, and I played some songs, and it made me feel very like a cornball that I liked it so much. But you go listen to it. Tell me what you think. Send me an email if you think my comparing me with Alexander Hamilton and Lin-Manuel Miranda is grandiose. I would love to hear an email. Send it to me at dopeypodcast@gmail.com. Oh, this is very important. From now on, if you send in a voicemail or an email and I read it or I play it, bam, you get free Dopey socks. What do you say? Send in a fucking good, funny, great Dopey story. All right? Just send one in. And if I read it or if we play it, bam, you get free Dopey socks. Which leads me to the most important thing of all, Dopey Patreon. You guys, please join Patreon. It's incredibly helpful. It creates autonomy around Dopey. It gets me inches closer to leaving Katz's, which would really increase the spectrum of dopiness in the doposphere and in the universe in itself. There's tons of amazing material on Dopey Patreon. There's videos. There's the first ever Ben & Jerry's tasting video is up right now. I just posted the last of the Chopped and Screwed installments, which is heart-wrenching. If you have any desire to hear the just terrible tragedy, you should listen to that. But there's also a lot of fun stuff with my dad. There's music. Go to www.patreon.com/dopeypodcast and please help with the effort. Also, we have tons of gear. There's a new design coming out this weekend, which I'm very excited about. We are in partnership with SRO Prints out of Cincinnati, a couple of addicts over there, making our gear, making shirts, making hoodies, great Christmas gifts. Go to dopeypodcast.com and check it out at the store. And then also, fucking Good Morning Dopey is ripping and running all over YouTube. So go to YouTube, subscribe to the Dopey channel, and I don't know. We're starting slowly with these daily reflections, but check them out, and new stuff is on the way. All right? I think it's really an exciting time to be a part of the Dopey Nation. But this episode we have is incredibly raw and emotional. It is the bass player from the band Coheed and Cambria. The guy's name is Michael Todd, and he's been through the mill, and he is incredibly brave and honest. And here he is. Everybody likes a good Dopey story. And my guest had one of the craziest Dopey stories that was ever in public, like a public crazy fucking Dopey story. He was the bass player in a band called Coheed and Cambria. Michael Todd, welcome to the show.
How you doing, man?
How you doing?
Very well. Happy to be here.
He came in late. I fucked up. I was like sitting around waiting for him, and I looked in my bag, and I forgot a cable. So I had to run to the store. We get back here, get him some nice herbal tea, and here we are.
And here we are, yes.
The best thing to me is that any hardcore Dopey fans out there remember when we had Josh Eppard on the show, and Josh Eppard told your story. Did you listen to him on the show?
I started to, and I couldn't. I couldn't at that time.
Why?
You know what I'm saying? Same reason I am afflicted. It was like making me feel things I wasn't.
Like, what did it make you feel?
So, I mean, being out of the band alone is a sensitive thing for me, and I still don't even know how I process that, how I feel about it. But also, once my story becomes, comes up in conversation, and especially if I'm not there,
right?
I just can't listen. I just couldn't listen to it. I didn't want to.
I totally understand.
I didn't want to take the chance of feeling something that I didn't know I was going to be feeling that day.
Absolutely. It's like the idea of tuning into something and hearing someone tell my story when you weren't a part of it. And then the randomness is that around the same period, how did you find out about Dopey in the first place?
This American Life story, like a lot of people I think probably did. So I had heard that, a while before I contacted you. You know what? I don't remember what prompted me to reach out to you that day. I think I was just like, you know what? I want to introduce myself to this dude. Same struggle. We've both been in the war, and I was like, you know what? I need more friends in this world. I'm going to reach out to this guy and say what's up. And we talked about maybe doing the show. It just never happened.
It never happened. We tried to make it happen, and then schedules conflicted, and you seem to be doing a lot of service work in upstate New York, helping a lot of people.
Yeah, man. The life of, an unskilled laborer post rock and roll. Look at that. I brought my own soundtrack.
That's nice. The weird thing is that you hit me up within a week of him being on the show, and it was totally disconnected.
Totally by chance. Yep.
That is like, I'm not a big person to say God shot Todd shot. I don't say that kind of stuff. You know, my friend Todd died, so we always would say it's a Todd shot.
That's right.
But it's one of those things. At my meeting, they're like, there's no such thing as coincidence. And I don't like any of that stuff. For me, it's like everything happens. So, I mean, like, what was the show where they say, well, it's not a big coincidence. There's just coincidences. There are no big coincidences or little coincidences.
Right. I know what you're talking about, but I can't place it either. But I know what you're saying. I try to, I don't know, pay attention to things like that too, and you know, let the situation play out in my life like it's supposed to. And this was one of them, man. And when you reached out to me the other day, and invited me down, I was like, I'm right up the highway. I'll come on down to the city. And again, I haven't been down here since pre-pandemic days. I'm a little nervous about being here just because I've been so isolated. Not even, I mean, it hasn't really been a thing that I've had to worry about. And being down here, I'm a little worried.
Are you worried about COVID, or are you worried about just being around so many people when you've been like nice and sequestered and safe?
You know, I want to. It's definitely not COVID. It's definitely I've become this new breed of personal introvert. Like during the pandemic, I don't know how to get out of that.
This is a good move towards that direction.
This is totally like This is me work. Me coming down here and doing this is totally a piece of therapy for me to get me out of the woods for
literally
5 minutes. Absolutely, literally.
And you're on the 21st floor of a nice building full of old Jewish people, so I'm sure you feel right at home.
Love it.
Right?
Absolutely love it.
So your fucking story is crazy as hell, and I was never like a big Coheed and Cambria person. It came to me through that guy Josh.
Yeah.
You know, no, through that guy Jack. Josh came to
right.
me through Jack, and I was like, I've heard of that band, blah, blah, blah. But when I read your story, I was like, holy shit, that's the story I want to hear. When's the first time you got high, first of all?
I mean, I've got different degrees of high in like high school and stuff, but my full-blown addiction really blossomed in my 20s from a doctor's office, like a lot of people, especially being on tour 300 days a year in a van for years. Your back hurts a little bit, and they were very, very happy to still write scripts then. I really didn't even know that Vicodin and Oxy was opiates or heroin. I mean, eventually I did, and I didn't really run away from it, but I tried everything in high school, but I don't want to say I managed. Maybe I just didn't. The disease didn't totally metastasize until I found the opiates. Because it's never been about going out and partying or staying up all night. It's been about anesthetic.
Sure.
And so,
for me, it was about total comfort. You know what I mean? Like to shut off that feeling of self criticism, of thinking, of like just dull the levels.
100%. I always am thinking about what other people are thinking about me, always up in my head. I have this gnarly guilt default from being a kid, and it turns all that shit down. And that was the only way I could sleep after a while. And
I think it's interesting that in your early 20s, was it in your early 20s?
I'd say mid 20s. My early 20s, I was the driver of Coheed. Like literally, I drove the van. Nobody else really drove. Travis drove once in a while, but and I did fire.
I forgot I put the kettle on.
That's totally my fault.
I microwaved the tea.
It's
It's not your fault. I didn't think to shut it off. Thank God the kettle whistled, or I would have burned my dad's apartment down. So, like, you're the driver. Like, when you became a musician, like, how connected was getting high and music? Was it connected at all?
No, it wasn't. I mean, the music was definitely an independent thing. Long before I was old enough to drink, I joined that band. We would drink and smoke weed, certainly as teenagers, but it really wasn't connected. It wasn't like a let's get stoned and write songs. It always kind of had its own place in all of our lives, I think, back then. I'm a few years younger than all of the guys in the band. I think Josh is the closest. He's like a year or two older than me, and then Claudio is the furthest. He's 4 to 5 years older than me, I believe, 4 years. But once we hit the road, and we were really eating shit for years. Like, we didn't have any tour support. We were eating cold soup out of cans, sleeping in the van most days. You kind of settle into a position, and I settled into a lot. I acted the tour manager, the driver. I'd advance the shows, read the fucking atlas, because this is long before... this is the beginning of like MapQuest printed out directions days. So it was still a matter of like calling promoters on payphones outside of cities to get directions. I was so busy that I think it didn't have a chance to happen earlier, or else I'm sure it would have.
How did it happen? Like when you go to the doctor, like, and you're in your 20s, why is the doctor giving you scripts for opiates in the first place?
Knees. I have like a kneecap thing, patellofemoral syndrome, back pain just from lugging equipment, 100 times a week. And again, there wasn't really the options that when you're in a town for one night, in a city for one night, the doctors are going to be like, well, you can't do any long-term progressive physical therapy. I'm not going to do surgery on you. All I can do is give you painkillers.
Right.
So great. Bring it on. Bring the painkillers. I didn't know that I was becoming addicted to them while I was taking them for a while. In fact, one time I went on vacation to Florida without having a prescription, and I didn't know why I was so sick. I thought I had a really bad flu.
Who were you with?
Alone. I was seeing a girl down there, so we hooked up. But I took a couple days to get over my terrible stomach flu that I had. I had no idea. At 26 years old, I didn't know that I was fucking dope sick. I had no idea.
And when did you figure it out?
Not long after. I mean, there's a big difference between
Walk me through that, though, because I like that kind of a story. You fucking turn up in Florida. You feel like shit. You don't realize that you need the pills. When did you realize that? When did you realize, holy shit, I need a fucking Vicodin or Percocet?
Not then. I didn't.
You kicked then with her.
I kicked on and off a bunch of times without even knowing it. Eventually, it kind of became the Oxycontin thing was happening on the street. When I didn't have the Vicodin started coming with me to the bar, and that's when it started becoming more of a casual thing. I had like a never-ending recycling prescription, and I would drink and take them because that makes them work more, I guess. Then when buying those on the street was starting to happen, Oxycontin appeared in my life. And I'm actually a plaintiff on one of the lawsuits right now against...
with Sackler?
Against Purdue, yeah.
Nice. How much money are you looking at with that?
So really, I mean, I'm a very cynical dude, man, and I'm thinking some guillotine shit because they're, the rich are really eating us right now. But I was told that it could be as high as like 50, 60 grand.
Wow.
Or as low as nothing.
Imagine if they give you
right
60 grand for being addicted to fucking Vicodin and Oxycontin.
Fuck them. It's the least they can do. Not that I think that anybody owes me anything for my disease, but for real, fuck them.
I would love to, if you get the money, you need to let me know. And if anyone who's listening in the audience right now is part of this class action lawsuit, can they get to be a part of it, or is it too late?
That one, it's too late. You had to sign up for it online, I think before last summer.
Please write in an email to dopeypodcast@gmail.com. But you're going too fast for me from getting a prescription to needing to be on the street to buy pills.
So that was years. And being on the street, I just mean buying them illegally, getting them from people who weren't a doctor. And that's when it was recreational. And that's when one Oxycontin, we split it like 6 ways, me amongst my friends, and eat a little crumb. Eventually, again, I'm going to tell my story. I'm not going to involve anybody else in the band in it, but Josh isn't shy about it. He and I were doing a lot of the same shit at the same time back then, and we were blowing lines of Oxycontin, and that was...
It was like, would it be like you would get high and then play, or would it be you get high after a gig or during practice?
Straight up how it really was when I was home from tour, which was usually between 3 and 5 weeks at a time, I would start taking pills. I would get pills. We would start fucking around with Oxy and doing all this shit. Tour would start. I'd have a couple pills for like a week. I'd do a little kick and just be on tour then, because I really wasn't... it didn't follow me on tour until I physically couldn't leave it home. And that transition happened subtly,
Let me ask you this, though.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, like being high, when I was getting high, being high was like my favorite way to be. And if I wasn't getting high, I was incredibly uncomfortable. And I fantasized my whole life of being in a band that people cared about, touring. Like, I played shitty gigs in the Hamptons and in Manhattan and tiny ska bands as a kid. So I never got the experience of touring, but I would have loved to tour high. And then when I think about you kicking before each tour, did it ruin the tour in a kind of way, or did you just recalibrate?
I recalibrated. It was I had a long resiliency. I was able to kind of bounce back for
You're young,
for a while. I was
healthy.
super young, you know, and really, honest to God, doing, and let me be clear, you know, the first year plus of touring was like we were playing to sometimes paid attendances of 1-2 people in some towns. So, but you know, once crowds really started coming out, the adrenaline was flowing every night. It really was more than enough to take care of like physical pain and a lot of the discomfort, but it really is those other 22 hours of the day. And yeah, once the physical pain starts settling in, and forget it if you're going through some emotional pain, like you know, your partner at home you're having problems in your relationship or whatever, any kind of homesickness. I never really had a homesickness thing, but any feeling that you don't like feeling gets, you know, exasperated by 10 when you're on the road, especially if you're crammed in a tin can with 6 other grown men.
Is it 6 people?
So then it was, the 4 bandmates, usually a tour manager, and then a friend Quam selling merch. That was the general. It grew from there, of course. And actually, if you want to know what really pushed that world into like the full-time touring, needing to, you know, get well all the time, it was when I started losing a lot of the responsibility. The more responsibility I gave away, or like we successed out of, you know, we started having to hire somebody because I didn't know how to read the contracts above a certain complexity of, you know, so there's like a line of professionalism where, you know, things like hiring union people to work shows and stuff. All of a sudden, you know, we've played some shows where I'm not allowed to change strings on my bass. I remember those are stories I tell about how strange the world is. But with every one of those acquiescences comes more free time and more time up in my head. And, you know, if my knee hurts, it hurts 10 times worse for, you know, all that time that I'm not doing anything. I read a lot of books. I wish I had developed more healthy hobbies back then. I didn't know that I was damning myself to this.
But were you, like, at what point, like, so you were the driver for the Coheed and Cambria van. You were the fucking
100%.
de facto tour manager. You were all probably de facto roadies, and you have so much to worry about, and you're so scrappy, and getting high didn't come first.
And hungry. We believed in the project a lot. We all loved doing it, and we loved each other. We had a long, I think, honeymoon period once we hit the road. It was enough. It was... I was busy, too busy to have. I didn't get there yet. I just didn't get there until my late 20s. The more free time, and but yeah, once I started knowing that I was taking it recreationally and that I wanted to feel that way more than I needed to for whatever reason, if I ever really needed to, you know, I don't know. But I don't. There was never a conscious moment, like an inflection point, where I was like, turn back now. It was like I was looking at it from afar, and then I was deep in it the next day. Do you remember like when you felt like, holy shit, I'm not looking at this from afar anymore? It was the first time I got clean. I didn't even see it until then. I didn't believe it until I put a little bit of time in between, you know, myself and the shit. It was, I had left the band. I was 26 years old. And I went through like $600,000, I think, in like 6 months. And at that point, I'd gone to the needle. I'm shooting coke and dope, and I'm by myself with my dog in my house, my marital home. I was married at the time, only she wasn't around. She got freaked out pretty quick and took off.
From the needle and the coke and the dope?
Just from the me. Once I'd left the band, that was the decision of I couldn't go out. I couldn't go to practice. I couldn't go to tour. I couldn't go to work. I had to get my medicine. I couldn't. I made the choice that time, and that's when I started using a needle. Was like the 6 months before I got clean the first time. But so, yeah, I went to detox eventually after.
What was the first time you used the needle? What was the story?
Just met a friend of mine in a hotel in Kingston, hotel lobby to connect. And I was like, yo, how easy is it to get rigs? I'm going through too much of this, having to snort it. I need to save some money. I need to start.
Who told
shooting
you
it.
that? Like, where did you hear the first time? Like, oh, you're wasting money if you snort. And did you move to heroin at that point?
So when OxyContin changed the recipe, I moved to heroin. And
when was the first time you got heroin?
Oh man. I had gotten it intermittently because there were no oxys around, and I never liked it as much. It wasn't as reliable, I thought. Of course, I was only sniffing everything. I don't know that I just didn't know that. I just knew that if I picked this up, I only would have to do a half a bag instead of 3 bags. You know, I think I just understood that. I knew a couple people around me that shot, but they never did it in front of me, and it was never a social thing. So I asked him, he's like, yeah, well, we live in a harm reduction place. You can just buy them at the pharmacy. Here's what you ask for. Have fun. And then once I started mixing it with Coke, I was like, doing that crackhead shit in my house and like combating it with oxys and heroin and the needle to like come down. But, hiding from the trees outside and doing the whole shit for like 6 months. I'm 6 feet tall. I was 130 pounds soaking wet when I went in. I was very textbook. And even then, I just thought I needed to put a little bit of time between it, get off the physical addiction. But I knew like immediately that it was like what's the word? Euphoric recall thing. All I was remembering was how good it would feel. And I had no fortitude. I had no fortitude, no willingness or desire to stay clean beyond that, 5-day detox. And for whatever reason, I followed somebody's suggestion and went into a 28-day program. And that was like, Christmas, New Year's, 2006, 2007.
And was that when you got clean?
That was when I got clean, and I put some time together.
But I want to hear the fucked up story.
Yeah, no, man. I'm trying to like figure out how.
You don't want to tell.
It's dark, but no, I certainly, absolutely do.
I don't want to put you in a spot.
No, check it out.
In a million places, I don't want to put you in a spot.
There's shit that those guys don't even know about, like that I'm going to tell that I've spoken about in meetings and shit when I went. I was back. I rejoined the band, and Josh was not in the band. I was very conditionally
because Josh was like in treatment or something.
Before that, he was. He made the choice that I made, and
he just left.
Yeah. So we were both replaced for a minute.
Were you guys getting high together in that period, or you were just like off on your own craziness?
I was totally isolated. Yeah, I didn't even know where he was.
How big was the band when you left?
No, I don't want to say it was like the peak, but it was. We were huge. I mean, we were selling out Terminal 5, Hammerstein Ballroom.
What was that experience like?
I mean, it was literally a dream come true. It was. This is it. And that's.
Did you wear different clothes and stuff? Were you like slick rock star style? Oh my God.
That's funny that you say. I have like a terrible sense of style apparently because I had to be told eventually. There was like a fucking like, there was like what do you call it? An intervention about my shitty sense of style.
A fashion intervention?
Yeah, I think I wore a lot of earth tones, like dark forest greens and brown pants and shit. And I think Claudia one day was like, "Yo, my man looks like a tree every day. I hate it." And they were like, "Get some fucking jeans and button up shirts, whatever." There was a literal intervention. I was so fucking dumb looking, but so no, it was very much not that. We never thought of ourselves as being like, you ready to ride? It was always all that shit felt fake and forced. You know what I'm saying? I felt like a phony up there every time I was like, "Are you ready to party?" Or that just didn't feel normal.
And that wasn't the aesthetic anyway. The aesthetic was super raw.
Yeah.
And loud and crazy, technically proficient.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, we were a little bit street. I thought. We were technical, and we took a lot of pride in that. But we were very punk rock, ethically,
super raw.
Yeah. And we've danced into that world a little bit of like arena tours. And I would love the ability to do that. But I don't know, man. I just always felt like a fucking phony.
But at that point, like before we get to all of the, like I want to hear about the robbery and I want to hear about the end of the band. But I guess something that I'm always interested in just because I never got to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, when you're becoming this ridiculous addict, this opiate addict, this coke shooting, opiate shooting, addict and you're this bass player in a band that can sell at the Hammerstein Ballroom or Terminal 5 and you have like a cult like fan base, how do those two worlds come together? Like, do you lose the fun of getting big, or is it more fun to be fucked up, or does it destroy everything? Like, what was the best part of using in those days when the band was big?
It's not like just using in general. Like,
right.
I want to say that the days I was using, I had more fun those days, but I don't really remember them. And it's not because I was wrecked. It's just those aren't substantial memories. Like it wasn't real, and like enjoyment. It wasn't real. There's plenty of euphoria to be found in a world where you're paid a handsome salary to create art. And I've always
do what
been
you love.
A compulsive artist in that I can't express myself very well with words, and I can't articulate a bunch of shit that's always been going on. With music, I could do that, and it became my career. The luckiest guy on the planet. But those, I can remember being happy those days, and probably maybe chatting with people a little bit more than I might otherwise if I was super high. But it wasn't really something I enjoyed. It was just the days all blurred together. The substantial memories just aren't there.
What were the substantial memories of the rise of Coheed and Cambria?
So there's a lot.
Do people just say Coheed, or do they always say Coheed?
Coheed's the shorthand, I think.
Thank you.
I mean, it's just meeting so many people, the days where we'd be on stage asking for a place to crash after the show and just meeting people. We were kids. We were fucking kids. And we met a bunch of people like us all across the world. You know, it was like 2 years before we even went over to England, and that's pretty quick. I don't know how to describe it, except those were the best years of my life, legitimately. The years when I was the busiest, like that third time we'd come to a city and there'd be like 350 people there. I think that's when I felt it the most. You know what I'm saying? That was like, holy shit.
It's working.
It's working. This is it. We were right. This is the thing. We do have something here. And I feel like a traitor to myself and to all the people who gave me that career, and that the people who came to see us play and bought our records. And so there's the...
Well, don't feel like that. You're just a drug addict caught up in the mix.
I know.
You're
intellectually, I know that,
dude,
bro.
Come on. And like, I also want to know, like, when you're starting to feel like it's working, where were the drugs?
Leisurely. It was fun. I was going out when I was home. I was hometown hero in Kingston. Josh and I were fucking around at the bars every night.
Kingston's an awesome town.
Kingston's a fun town, yeah. It's come up a lot in the last 10 years too.
Kingston's like the new Brooklyn.
It's getting there, 100%. It was a little dirtier back then in the early aughts, but yeah, it was a leisure activity. It wasn't. I'd never woke up the next day itching. I would do it at night and not even think about it until I had it a day or a couple days later. Until it just gradually infected my life when touring became full time and the OxyContin. It was the strength of that made it impossible to not feel it when you lose it.
I remember when I was a kid, you know, when I was or probably around the same time period, around in my early 20s, and I was producing this dumb TV show, and I was using heroin, and something just snapped in me, something changed, and I was like, I want to do this. Meaning, I'm gonna, like, if you know the Lou Reed song, you know, the Heroin, I made a decision. What do you think? Do you know that song?
Heroin?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know when he says, I have made a big decision?
Yeah.
Do you think that's the decision to do that?
Oh, man. I'm of several different minds. In a way, I do.
I always felt like that's what he was saying, and I could relate to it because I don't remember the day that I made a big decision. I just know that I did.
Yeah. It's a more ethereal. Yeah, again, it wasn't a decision, but it wasn't an inflection point where the decision was made, but somewhere the decision was made.
And it was a line in the sand.
Yes.
And our lives would never be the same again.
100%, yeah.
And like when that happened, did you have, like, because it's funny because when you talk about this, that you have guilt for the fans and probably for the band and for the whole thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did you have it when you were using in the beginning, or did the effect of the drug get rid of it?
I didn't think I was doing anything wrong in the beginning. I thought, it was just, Hey, and there's also like this stupid cliche that people kind of expect you to.
Right.
Especially when we jumped to Sony and had a bunch of, fucking leeches around us, the people that make their living, taking money from artists. And the existence of that life also kind of pushed me further. And I was like, I can now say, I've never thought about it this way before. In other instances, so this isn't an original thought, but I was using at people then. I was drinking at people and getting high at Sony, and all the people who overrode whatever decisions we might disagree on, artistic decisions that we had, there weren't a lot of artistic, piece of artistic control that we gave away, but there was like one inflection point in particular that I remember really making me pissed, and I was like, well, I'm going to be a junkie. Wasn't a moment where I thought that, but I definitely kind of became that caricature in my own brain. It's a weird thing to try to
pin down, but also like I enjoyed the idea of it. I enjoyed the fantasy, and you were actually a rock and roll junkie.
Oh, I used to watch like Bill Evans' black and white of him playing piano on TV and like nodding out, and I thought it looked fucking cool, no question. I thought dope fiend jazz artists and like alcoholic, I thought it was cool. I thought, I was like, I'm gonna be that guy. I'm gonna be a Keith Moon type,
right?
You know what I mean? Not the fun kind that dies young, not like the Billy Joel drives his car into 3 houses in a week kind of sad.
I wonder how Billy Joel's doing now.
I think he's probably okay.
I hope he's doing okay.
I seriously do too. Nothing but love for the big man.
But I think it's so crazy that you actually did it. You know what I mean? Like you had this fantasy of rock and roll junkie and you achieved it.
1 in a million, yeah. Oh, that part was a little easier to achieve than the actual music success
No,
part.
but it's both. It's like you achieved both. And when does it take its toll?
I mean, so when I don't know if there's any way that it doesn't take its toll, even if it's just for a moment, because there's going to be repercussions. If there weren't, I would certainly still be using. If there were, there's consequences, no matter what, whether they're huge ones or just like life ones. Like the portion of the band I'm referring to where I don't remember so much, just because I was in a soupy little happy haze.
What were you using in the haze?
I mean, I used to buy just pillowcases full of Oxys and Norcos and Vicodins pills, eating them mostly, but snorting them when I got Oxys.
And where would you got them from? Whoever.
Yeah.
Got no benzos.
No. Never fuck with those. I've taken them and I learned real quick that I cannot.
And no coke.
Yeah, I did. Once I started shooting the shit, I did. But again, all by myself. It was I was doing crackhead shit. Shooting coke feels like smoking crack, kind of.
Like a little bit. It lasts longer though.
Yes, it does, certainly. But you get that ring, that bell, that
was that with the bell ringing?
Yes.
That was Chris's favorite thing to talk about.
I hate using that term because it feels so, I don't know, grimy. But yeah,
I love how you're so sensitive to this stuff. It's very sweet. It's very nice. It's like I see you tensing up when you don't even want to say the words "the bell ringer."
Because I fucking hate that dude, man. Me, that especially on like speed and shit. That's like really, really embarrassing for me. Like I was totally like seeing police in the fucking trees and shit. Like full on like crazy. But
did you get to a point with that band where you were just like so checked out, like when you were in it, like when you're playing shows, when you're on the road, that it became like untenable?
So they will say that there are times when I wasn't performing right, but I don't believe that. I mean, certainly there were times when I didn't play well, but I've never like not been able to perform. I've never been. I mean, what Opiates did was they changed my pocket, my rhythm pocket a little bit. I had a little bit more fucking soul in me. You know what I mean? It put a little more swagger on my downbeats. You know what I mean? I was a little less fast, but a lot more
groovy.
A lot more groovy, yeah.
Okay.
But I certainly wasn't better, and I was very lucky to find out that I could play without it. Because a lot of people, after they go through that part, can't go back to it like without it.
Did you ever read the Miles Davis autobiography?
No,
Dude, you got to read it. It's like the greatest. No. It's the greatest junkie memoir that ever was. And if you don't want to read it, listen to it on Audible. They have they have this actor kind of like doing Miles on it, and it's very it's very entertaining, and it's all Bill Evans stuff and like all that stuff. But like when you go on tour with fucking Soundgarden, was that the biggest, like playing close to Heroes? Was that like the most obvious, like holy shit, we're here?
So we'd already been through that, I think, a bunch of times. Like we played with this is going to sound kind of corny, but there was like a show where we played. It was a one-off, a festival in Detroit. We played with 311.
Okay.
I have a real soft spot in my heart for 311.
My friend Todd lived for 311.
Let me tell you something else, that the bass player from 311 is still one of the only people that I talk to in the music industry. After playing that show, the bass player called me, got my number, however, the next day, and was like, I don't know, it felt like this, like, welcome, young man, to the world of, here's, you like 311, now put me in your phone. And like Larry Lalonde from Primus, and when I lived in LA, having all those literal like phone numbers in my phone. And then when I started going to recovery meetings out there, forget it. I'm not going to put anybody on blast, but I don't want to say I felt like a fraud in that world. In fact, off stage is when it felt most real. I was hanging out with my idols. My dreams were coming true. The Soundgarden tour, which was the tour that I fucked off on, I was not in very good spot that whole tour. I wasn't a filthy, screaming fucking mess, but I was in a couple different types of trouble at the same time. And just life trouble, but also like money, drug trouble.
What was the money, drug trouble? Like nail it down as best you can.
So there was a 5-year period between I got clean and rejoined the band, and then I went out and did that crime. So there was like...
Wait, say it again?
There's a 5-year period where day one, I rejoined the band clean, had 4 months clean. And then 5 years later, I did that crime.
So you kind of like... So what was that transition?
It was very gradual.
I was 5 year
clean for years.
Okay.
I was clean for a few years. I was... my sponsor, this old jazz bass player I met in the Hamptons out here where I went to treatment, hired him as a
minder?
More of a roadie. The band, if I was going to have a minder, which they wanted, they had to be someone who worked also. They weren't just going to pay someone to hang out with me.
Not yet. You didn't hit that.
No, that was it. I had like the Dave Navarro's guy and like somebody else, and I'm not going to say his name because I think he's kind of a piece of shit, but I ended up having to send him packing. And I don't want to say that. We did not see things eye to eye.
It's got to be difficult to be young, successful, and be an addict and have somebody who's trying to keep you on the straight and narrow.
I was okay with it. I was okay with the humility, with being humble.
Was Josh sober at that point too?
No, Josh wasn't there. There was those 5 years. There was a different drummer and myself.
Was anyone else in the band getting high with you at that point?
No.
So you were it, and you were like, so. And after the show, how'd you stay sober?
I went to meetings at that time, and I was doing one or both of the main 12-step programs. That was drilled into me early on. I don't think I would be here without it. I don't.
So Sex and Love Anonymous and Families Anonymous?
I have been to an SNLA meeting. Let me just tell you about that. In Los Angeles, for not the purest reasons I went. But, of course...
Trolling at Slaw?
I just wanted to... I don't know. Maybe I was like, maybe, but...
Slaw is the
after
best.
I got there, I was like, I don't really belong here. Even though I fit a lot of that criteria,
Everybody, Slaw is weird.
It's the same motherfucking thing, just like different words interchanged. But hearing other people share their stuff, that's where I was like, I'm listening in on some shit. But I fell into the rooms hard. I stayed for a really long time. I went daily. I put some time together. Over that 5-year period, I made it like 2 years and change before I went out. And I went out for like a week and then made another year and a quarter.
So when you go out for a week, what does that even look like? You put years together and then you're like, fuck it, I'm going to take a week off?
Somebody who has some Vicodin. I mean, Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Nobody will know. I can get, no. Yeah, not I'm going to take a week off. Not here's the period where I can, it obviously started somewhere when I knew it was coming up. I was like, oh my God, I'll, imagine. And I romanticized it. Like, I'll get good rest. It'll be healthy for me and I'll just stop. I can stop. I've stopped before.
Right. It's like, I deserve it. It's like slipping from a diet or something. Yeah. It's like, I can do it. I get that.
Yeah. Failure and success are equally triggering to me.
When I was using, it wasn't like that. Like I never stopped. I never stopped. So like when I used, I just kept using. Yeah. But I can imagine being like, I've gotten 2 years. I'm going to take a week off and then I'll get it back.
It was because I was on the road too. Like if I stayed in Long Island for years, or I moved to LA then because I started going to meetings when we made our record out there, and I developed a community. But so it was when I would go home to upstate New York from Los Angeles was my home. That's where my home group was. That's where my whole, my circle was of that life. I had a lot of people that, that's where I was doing it. And so, yeah, I was hiding it from them. The group and the fellowshipping helped keep me accountable just like it's designed to. So, yeah, I snuck out here and there. And then I kind of got a bad hit in form of this is a benzo night. Again, this was not a get fucked up and party. My girlfriend I was living with went on tour. She was a musician also. I took some Xanax to go to sleep, which I thought was just going to put me to sleep. And I woke up behind the wheel of her totaled car at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
Quarter mile from her house. I sleepwalked into the car and drove into some cars. Ended up going to county out there for that. In Orange, in Santa Ana, and then I was back and forth between there and LA for a minute, which was the beginning of me not being able to stay clean. That was a miserable fucking experience. I've done a couple of little bits of county here and there in California. Boston was like a vacation compared to the county jails out there. That's real shit. I was fighting every day.
And you most in jail?
Yes.
Who are you fighting?
So I was in a barracks of like 295 people where I was one of 11 Caucasian people. All the rest of them were either Southsiders, the Southsiders, or the Paisas, which is the Mexican Americans don't speak any English, Mexican Americans. All of the rest, African Americans and Hispanics cannot mix in the county jail. They will immediately start throwing fists. So if it wasn't, and there were a couple of little thug white dudes that if they steal somebody's something, they just go around and fuck up every white person. There's like a 100-year-old guy on a DUI next to me on a cot, and he got his ass fucked up for some stupid shit this dude did. Like, there wasn't a choice. You were fighting.
Right.
And I was with the white dudes, whether I wanted to be or not.
Right.
And I met some people. I met a kid who was a fan, a young Latino kid who was a
Coheed fan.
Yeah, and he was in Southsiders. He was in the gang. He was in the life. Young. I met a couple people. Did
he protect you? Did he try to protect you?
So this other dude did protect me. He did. He would tell me when to hide. Like, he just knew something that I didn't. There'd be a change of the barometric pressure in there or something. He'd be like, yo, get under your bunk. I'd be like, what's going on? He'd just do it. And I get under there, and then like fucking roving gangs of murderers would be running by looking for anybody. And I'd be like, wow, thank God.
What's the longest stretch you did in there?
Oh, a month.
And there was all possession and drunken.
No, that was the drunken driving shit,
right,
out there, which wasn't even alcohol related. But I got charged with a prior that they shouldn't have charged me with. I was trying to hide it from the band, so I got a public defender, and they were like, "Take 60 days. You'll be lucky to get 60 days." I'm like, "What the fuck? Are you serious?" So I had to come clean to the band that I fucked up, and I had to go to jail. But I went to jail, and like the first day in, the guards pretzeled me up outside for flushing the toilet at the wrong time. I got on that phone. I was like, "Get me the fuck out of here."
Wait, what is getting pretzeled up?
They twist you up and push your pressure points, take you outside where there's no cameras, and they fucked me up. I thought I was like, oh, maybe I have a phone call. And they fucked me up. Every day I was like, how can this be? If I ever get out of here, this cannot be. This is not real. I can't wait till everybody hears what's happening in here.
Right.
And as soon as I got out of there, I ran, I was...
Did you use when you were in there?
Brutalized. No, I didn't.
When you got out of there, you ran where?
Just away from the fucking county jail. I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I wasn't going to make anybody pay shit. I was like, those motherfuckers, they can't, who do they think I am? Some fucking whatever. These guys can't beat me. But I was like, thank you, bye. And I just like fucking got back to my life, and I
Well, the
was
scary
permanently
thing, though,
scarred.
the scary thing is to be. I mean, I lived out in L.A. for a long time, and I used out in L.A. for a long time, and
Very aware of my privilege.
I think I got very lucky. I got pulled over a few times, but I never had to go to jail. I got into accidents out there, and I never had to go to jail. I was very, very lucky. Now, after you got out of jail, though, you were still using.
So I picked up at some point. More than that, there were moments when I was. So I also did a little bit in fucking Passages Malibu, I might add.
Okay.
I went to the Ventura one, so not the Malibu one. That was a fucking blast.
How was that?
It was great, man. I'm not gonna lie.
What do they do? Head rubs, massages, that kind of
Yes,
stuff?
they do like
sound bath
hot tub
meditation.
massage. They take you surfing, teach you how to surf.
Equine therapy.
No.
Spiritually transformative sweat lodge.
They do at Malibu, no doubt. But they usually like well, it was the first time I was ever treated like a patient and not a criminal. Even any rehab I've been to, they treat you like, you got to turn your pockets out. And I remember the first time I went in being like, why would I come here if I was trying to get high? Like, why are you searching me? I didn't know shit. After being through it 100 times or whatever. So one thing I was doing, and this is what people don't really know, is I ended up in a little bit of financial straits while I was in jail. I ended up owing people money for this and that. Protection. I was a hostage, I'm sure, in some way or another. But like, kept in touch with some people, and I started when I would go to New York to get ready for tour. I would send like a Gobstoppers box full of balloons, a tar, ahead to my hotel in New York, and I would turn that around, and I would bring like however bundles of the New York China White back to LA with me, and I was doing even when I was not getting high. I did that a couple times.
Was it always in the Gobstopper box?
That was because it looks just like them. Those
sort of. It's like quickly, right? It does.
Yes,
the colors of the balloons are so
totally.
like Gobstoppers.
Yep, and the same size, and
You mentioning Gobstoppers kind of makes me want a Gobstopper.
I like Gobstoppers.
Just the phrase "everlasting Gobstopper." Yep. That would have been maybe
it's a very satisfying moment when they become like soft enough to just go through. Yeah.
Okay, but hold on. I like this. You're buying like fucking paquetes of balloons on Skid Row,
so
and
a couple $1,000s I'm doing back and forth, and
that's for the tour, or is that to make money on?
No, this is to supplement my income.
Okay,
to help get me out of the. And eventually, I started using some of it, and so then I would not make so much. Just so happened that last time I was on tour, I was supposed to be meeting my guy, like right around when the trouble happened, and he got picked up. He got popped, and I didn't find out, and I was going to be in a lot of that was going to make things very complicated for me.
Explain.
Lost a lot of money lost.
If you weren't on the tour.
No. This is if I didn't see this guy I was supposed to see while we were passing through New York.
Were you supposed to give him the box of Gobstoppers? Or
No. That was already done. I'm supposed to pick up something going the other way.
From him?
Yes.
And people were expecting you?
Yes.
And he didn't show up?
He got arrested.
So what'd you do?
I robbed a fucking pharmacy.
But hold on, though. Like people...
There's not a very wide gap, man. So I'll tell you what happened.
Please.
I was dealing with a horrible orthopedic issue that I could go into any emergency room in the country, get a X-ray, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, you must be in terrible pain." Script. And so on rough
Are you
day,
still in the pain?
What's that?
Are you still in orthopedic pain?
Not like I was. I've gotten several surgeries.
Where was it?
On my body?
Yeah.
Or where this elbow.
All right.
Right up here. That tendon and the ulnar nerve.
Okay.
I would get like this calcium deposit that would grow on my bone, and they had to keep sawing it off.
Oh, yeah.
So here I am in,
Massachusetts.
Yeah, where I was in Massachusetts, which is a gnarly area. I didn't know it was gnarly. I thought I was in the middle of the woods. I went to the hospital, and the lady right away was like, "I'm not giving you any pills." I didn't know that I was in like Junkie Central. And I was like, "I'm going to get this." And then when I found out I wasn't getting it, I was in the middle of nowhere. Holy shit, dude. And there was like this
That's like
moment.
the worst thing you could fucking hear at that moment. That you're not getting.
Yeah. I left while everybody else was still asleep on the bus. I was scared, and I was feeling unwell. And I was like, people do this shit. I've heard this story 1,000 times in the rooms. People fucking do this shit all the time.
Do this shit meaning go to the emergency room?
No,
and get
meaning
pills.
go to a pharmacy and stick it up and say, "Give me the shit."
Hold on though. Go slow. Take a deep breath.
I'm walking.
I see. Like this is a very tense fucking thing.
Well, it's also very small. Like I'm walking from the hospital back to where the bus is and where we're playing.
So the lady turns you down at the hospital.
And I sat there for 3 hours and got scanned and everything. Yeah,
and you're like,
and I got
fuck,
turned away.
it must have been the most frustrating thing.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I've heard that you can stick up a drugstore fairly easily.
I've heard this story so many times.
So what's the story? I don't think I've ever, the only time I heard the story is your story.
Oh, it's so fucking embarrassing.
So
I mean,
it's not embarrassing. I don't think.
I mean,
it's only embarrassing.
I'll tell you why it's embarrassing. Because I terrorized another human being.
Okay.
You know, I wasn't like, oh, you fucking bitch, you know, but I showed her something to read and I apologized. I'm sure she was still fucking terrified of me because I was, what a crazy fucking thing to give me the shit.
You walk in and what happens?
I walk in, I walk to the back counter, I wait till there's nobody around. I show her a note that says, give me all of this that you have.
What did the note, like, what did you ask for? Oxys?
Yeah.
Did you have a gun?
No, unarmed. I implied.
So when they say armed robbery, it's just because
In Massachusetts, if you make any implication that you're, you don't have to actually be armed to commit armed robbery. There's that feeling in the stomach. And I did it, and I got it, and within minutes, there were fucking cop cars. And I was waiting for a taxi. Stupid. I was crazy.
Yeah.
I wanted to, but I was also having horrible interpersonal problems with the group. With shit in my own life was a little bit hectic. In other ways, I needed to get off the shit that I was, the roller coaster that I was on, of just where my life was.
And maybe subconsciously you were like, I'm going to fucking blow this thing up so it can finally be over.
I was like, I'm going to get this or I'm going to kill myself with the cop. I was like, there's no way I'm going to live through doing this and getting caught. You know, like a passive, like suicidal tendency is like my resting state. You know, I'm not a suicidal person, but I have to be really careful because I'm really cynical and I feel I hurt like all the time emotionally, like in some way or another. I also have a lot of love and a lot of fascination with the world and and I care a lot about the people around me. So that's usually enough to get me by as long as I'm clean.
What did the note say specifically? What did the note say specifically? Do you remember writing it?
No.
Out of body experience.
Total out of body experience. The whole thing is.
Right. And then
I'm hearing it told back to me by prosecutors and police reports.
What was the outcome of the whole thing?
I got 630 milligram Oxycontins and went back to the
600.
600. So like 6 bottles. I didn't even take any of them before I got caught. I was going to court for a year, during which I had to stay in Massachusetts. I never saw any of the band members again from the night before that morning. They saw me get taken away, and they weren't coming for me. You know, and I don't blame them. No, you know, I don't know if I would have. You know what I mean? Not that they have.
They didn't come for you, meaning like no bail, no nothing?
Not even a thought. There's not a fucking chance. Leave them.
I'm sure there was a thought.
Yeah, you're right. I don't know. I do not know.
I'm sure there was a thought.
What I know is that there wasn't
an action.
It did not happen. There was not a phone call, and the cops were very surprised. They're like, "Oh, they're leaving you, huh?" You know, there was like this whole thing. I spent the night before I got arraigned in the morning. Got arraigned, went to county there. The fuck was that jail? Dedham? No, not Dedham. I was in the one that Lizzie Borden was in. I can't remember. Fall River. So yeah, that's when I ended up in county there. I eventually bailed out after a couple months, but still had to stay in Massachusetts, and went to court for a year, and paid a lot of money to an attorney that I'm still kind of paying for, and pled guilty. Got a year of house arrest, a couple years probation, some financial restitution, and a lot of it was I had shown a lot of willingness to change and do shit in the time since the arrest to the settling of the case, and I also had cancer at the time I was getting sentenced. I got diagnosed with cancer right before.
What kind of cancer?
Testicular.
Oh my God! So you couldn't ask for like more horrible things at one time, but you were using when you got out of the whole thing, right?
When I got out of it, no.
No, when you got out of when you like right afterwards, like were you using at that period?
When I got out of jail or got out of legal trouble?
When did you get back into using?
Okay, so
in that period in
there were like
Massachusetts,
4 or
you were
5
clean.
years. Yes.
And you were going to meetings and stuff.
Going to meetings, yep. Going to a couple of different kinds of. I had a sponsee for a little while.
How was living with that, with shame and guilt right then? I can tell now still it's still difficult to live with.
It's it's hard to say, man, because I was very creative at the time. I was so happy to be clean and feeling good, and the juices were flowing, and I love being clean. I fucking love it. I really do.
Me too.
And that's one of the reasons that, I bet for a while that was the permission structure that I needed. I know that I love getting clean, so I'm not going to stay out there. But that's all like that one day and I'm done. But I do love how I think, how I feel. I love being able to be creative. I don't like the being blocked. I don't like the cloudiness. I don't like I like being clean. And I was having a very good creative renaissance in my life. I was writing music. I got some people interested. I was doing shit. I think it was like a third surgery I got. I lied about my painkillers to my sponsor, and then I went out. I kind of went out for X number of months, and then fled back to New York, to upstate New York. I'm not sure that I'm not wanted. Actually, I'm pretty sure I am wanted in Massachusetts. Straight up.
For what?
I just pieced, yo. I was in my last year of probation, but I just ducked. I just went. I left. I ran away.
What are you gonna do?
Probably not go to Massachusetts ever again.
You think that's the end of this thing?
No. I think I'm gonna have to go deal with it. This is one of those things that I like.
Does that keep you up at night?
No, not anymore.
I'm gonna stay up at night.
I've been arrested.
I'm gonna
since
stay
then.
up thinking about it.
I've been arrested since then.
Okay, for
and
what?
I've been arrested on a warrant that I had in Harlem here. This is like 6 years ago. Right when I came back, I was using again. And I think one of the arrests, it was like a real small possession, like $20 worth or something each time. And they said there was something in Massachusetts, but they're not coming for me because it's a Commonwealth and they don't extradite to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Yes, stay the fuck out of Massachusetts.
Yeah, I will do time, no question.
And how like every time you walk into a drugstore, does the fact that you could write a note and go to jail pop into your mind?
Nah.
Never.
Nah. In fact, when I first got out of jail and I went to a Walgreens to get some toiletries, it didn't even occur to me that was a thing. And my brother came and bailed me out, and he was with me, and he was looking at me like crazy when I was like, I want to go to Walgreens. And I didn't even know what he was looking at me for. It didn't even occur to me. No, that was totally in the rear view. I didn't ever... I mean, I still like am embarrassed and know that I did it, but it's not like... It wasn't a long-time fantasy of mine. It was a
short term, I need to accomplish this thing because they didn't give me fucking drugs at the hospital.
Yeah. And I'm going to be in trouble when I get back west empty-handed.
So that was the plan. Like, who did you owe shit to in California?
Just some dudes,
And you owed them money?
Yeah.
Did you ever pay them?
No. But I talked to one of them eventually, and they knew everybody knew fucking what happened.
Right, and it's like that lets you off the hook. Yeah. Right. It's like your story is so fucking traumatic. You know what I mean? And the traumatic aspect, the biggest traumatic aspect, is that your dream came true, and then addiction fucking swallowed you up.
Such a motherfucker.
And how do you live with it?
That's I say the same thing all the time. So again, I'm kind of cynical, but intellectually, if I sit here and look at it, I will tell you that the best shit is behind me. My dreams are in the rearview mirror.
How old are you?
41.
You can do a million things.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can do a million things.
I can do it again too if I want. That's not out of the question. But you just asked, like, how do you deal with that? Because that is a very real thing. It's a very real. It's traumatic. It's emotional. It was in my hands and it slipped right through my fingers. And it's doubly so because they are still doing it, and the band still exists.
How does that? How do you deal with that?
I don't listen to the fucking music. I'll tell you that. That would be like watching,
yes,
someone sleep with my ex.
Right.
But
and Josh
is
went
my
back.
boy.
Josh
Yes.
went back.
Josh went back immediately after I left. It was very. Oh yeah, I'm not supposed to talk about that.
What? Okay, you don't talk.
Shortly after.
You don't need to talk about it if you don't want to talk.
That's not a secret that he rejoined after I left. But the other things that were going on between whatever. But yeah, he went back, and he had been clean for a while on Suboxone, which I had known, and I firmly believe that you're clean when you say you are. If you're on methadone clinic, you're on Suboxone, you're clean. I'm on Suboxone right now.
All right.
I've been on it I'm looking at 2 years again right now. There's some truth,
Truth is the best thing.
I don't have a whole lot of time, I have had, over the past 15 years, I've had some years clean, but, it's not been consecutive. And to me, it's about like long-term survival.
So on a day-to-day basis, I mean, first of all, did we leave out any fucking really horrible but great Dopey story between the robbery and now?
You know what? I know we have, and maybe you can have me back someday.
Because if anything pops into your head, just spit it out. But I think like I've tried to become, I live for the fucked up stories, but I also live for like the transformative quality of this phenomenon of getting out of it. And obviously that's why you came down. Like when you talk about enjoying being clean, I see it's true. I see it on your face. And I am not somebody, I feel like you're very vulnerable, right? And you're very honest. And like, I'm not usually good at asking questions about like living with shame, but for some reason I want to ask you about it because it's like, it's so obvious that you went through something and obviously you're hanging in there.
I think it's important. Yeah.
So like people out there who fuck everything up, like what do you suggest? And I fucked everything up too. You know what I mean? And I live in shame. I just never got to be in a big band like I wanted to.
You're enjoying a very cool renaissance with this.
Dad, we're in my dad's kitchen. We're in my dad's kitchen. I'm getting texts from the job that said, "Oh, you sold enough pastrami today." It's like it's not like fucking being opening for Soundgarden and like it's not like that.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? It's like you asked me for lukewarm herbal tea at the start of this thing. It's like this is not Riders of Orange M&Ms.
Right.
This is Scrub City. But I'm happy to be here. I'm incredibly proud of my sobriety. I'm proud of Dopey. And I think I deal with shame on a daily basis. You know what I'm saying? Like I think I deal with my shame on a daily basis. Like fuck, I'm feeling it.
It's important because some days, man, you ask like, well, how do I do it? I'm still figuring that out. Every day it's something different. Once I figure out a way to get around the next day, I got to look out for the next thing that's gonna get around that. Some days I'm barely hanging on. Some days I'm so sad I can't stand it.
But you get through it by going through it.
You get through it by going through it. Everything passes. Everything either gets better or it just fucking passes. You know what I mean? And the next thing comes.
So what happened 2 years ago when you got on the subs again?
A failed suicide attempt, straight up.
What happened?
I took a purposely ridiculously huge shot, and
how many bags was it?
It was a bundle. And at the time, I'd been using for like a week or two, and I was like 1 or 2 bags would get me fucked up. I did 10. Somebody, it was in, I don't even want to talk about where it was, but somebody found me, and ambulance was called. Water was thrown on me.
You OD'd?
I OD'd, yeah.
And you woke up?
Another one of those fucking, well, that didn't work. I would like to say like, oh, thank God, but I had that thing where like, fuck, I was almost out, which is so, that's the darkest, most honest thing I can say, because I do not feel that way right now today. I don't feel like that. The real human being who I am does not ever feel like, fuck, I wish I was dead right now. I wish I had not survived yesterday. But that's where I go after a week these days, man. You know what I'm saying? And
Well, explain that.
If I'm using for a week, I will, death can't come quickly enough. I don't want to prolong it. It's not a consequence. It's a...
It's a relief. It's a relief,
right.
Yeah. The idea of it, I'll be out of this thing.
And I love people that mean so much to me in my life, and they care about me so much that I would never do that. Maybe that's how. It's definitely not being alone. You know what I'm saying? I have to I've certainly cut a lot of people out of my life, not just because of drugs, but also just because of how I tend to feel about myself when they're in my life.
Drugs or the people?
The people. Well, both, really. But
and
it's very important to find supportive people that love you unconditionally because, they're out there. You
doing meetings or no?
Once in a while. I'm not working. I had a weird split with, this is all in my own mind, but where I really got turned off of the whole situation by something that I couldn't deny anymore. But I still go for the fellowship.
What was the turnoff?
I'd realized that for like 15 years, I was watching like young girls get taken advantage of by people with recovery, and like that seemed to be what it was all about.
Right.
And all of a sudden, I couldn't not see it every time.
Like the meat marketness of young people.
It made me fucking sick. Yeah. And then it makes me think about there's all kinds of we're addicts and alcoholics. Sometimes we need manipulate is a reflex. We may not intend it, but I just don't like the power dynamic. I don't like the shame. I don't like the counting days. I don't like identifying as an addict. I'd like to try to keep things in a positive thing, but that doesn't keep me away from meetings. Now I'm just listing grievances. What it really was.
I like it. Give me some more. The coffee's not good. The cookies are cheap.
Coffee's fucking bomb. The cake, I love the cake. It really was. I got turned off by people who had significant time in recovery by what they were doing with it.
Right.
And it scared the shit out of me. And it made me feel really sick.
It's like they weren't like, here, that's my dad's fucking phone. Here, give me that phone. It's like it's the opposite of what it's supposed to be.
Yes, that's totally right. But it's still prevalent and like everywhere. And if it wasn't literally that, just I started seeing that power dynamic everywhere. And I started seeing people who cared and worked so hard not feel like they were welcome back because they made a mistake. Again, these are individual meetings of people that I'm referring to in my experience. It doesn't describe all meetings, and it certainly doesn't describe the purpose of that program. It says, again, don't think I would be here if it wasn't for that. It certainly is the best game in town, for someone who can't like go to therapy 7 days a week.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, I know that when I didn't get sober, when I tried to get clean, I was doing a different fellowship, and I would go at night, and I would see what you were talking about, but I would kind of enjoy like the flirtatiousness of being like a young guy.
Yes.
And like there was a social circle and there were like cute girls, and I was like, this is it's like summer camp or something. It's exciting.
That's exactly how I describe rehab. My first time in rehab, as I was having a fucking blast. It was exactly like, it felt like summer camp again as being a young adult.
People liked you.
And that was what kept me in the rooms for a while, was that the flirtation, the youthful energy, and having those emotions turned off for so long, and then that shit waking up. What a better place to be than in camp.
But I got distracted with all that stuff, and then I wound up using and really doing some really stupid stuff. And when I got sober again, it was always at super early morning meetings with like old people and like
those
retired people and people who are on their way to work, and there's very little like fraternization. And it's very like, we're here to help the next person get sober. We're here. It's like there's not really a socializing component. It's more like we see each other, we have coffee, we have a meeting, and it's like, bam.
Yeah.
And I like that, And then like, I don't know if you know about this, but like there's this Dopey Nation community of people who are like, some are adverse to 12-step shit and some aren't. And like they do Dopey Zooms. Like 25 Dopey Zooms a week.
That's rad.
All over the world.
I'm aware of it. Yeah,
it's pretty sweet.
That's very cool.
So if you're ever looking for a recovery, you could check out the Dopey Zoom world.
I absolutely will. There's certainly days where I'm like scrolling like that, where I absolutely would do that.
And I really appreciate you taking the drive and getting so vulnerable. When you get so vulnerable, because most people don't. Like, I have to be honest with you. Like, most people have their story. It's like you kind of said to me, like, I haven't been going to meetings, so my story isn't going to sound like AA polished.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's really refreshing. But it's also like, serious vulnerability. Like, how does it feel to be in that, to be vulnerable in this strange person's apartment? Is it like fucked up? Do you feel comfortable? Like, what's the feeling?
You know what? It feels therapeutic is what it feels like. And that's another reason that I wanted to do. I didn't know. I was trying to think of some of the really funny stories of off the wall shit that I've done, and I've got those, and maybe we'll go over them sometime or something like that. But I was very much wanting to this happen organically, however it was going to. And but I mean, I'm a very sensitive guy. I feel a lot. I've weathered a lot. I've survived a lot. I'm middle age. I'm not a child, but I feel like a child every day.
Me too. Yes. That's fucked up. What do you do? Like, what do you do about that? Like,
I'm scared all the time, dude. I read books. I try to create something. And, okay, so let me tell you something that I've done recently to try to take back a little power in my life as an adult. I went back to college, working towards a paralegal certification, thinking that maybe I could take myself out of the, unskilled labor market and also maybe do some good. I took 2 semesters. I'm taking a semester off right now because I got this this job that I'm doing right now that I really like and like the people. But I make myself useful in any way that I can. And right now it's my job. I work silly hours. People don't understand why I care so much about this job that I have. But it makes all this. I couldn't go at it any other way. But that's why I went back to school. I needed to channel. I needed a new
purpose.
Yeah. I needed a new place to channel this shit because I can only. And not saying that I'm ever wanting to like live by the skin of my teeth or be white knuckling it, but a lot of times that's just how it ends up being. Not that I'm in danger of like walking out of my house in the middle of the woods and like relapsing or drinking or something, because that geographically I'm not on the front lines up there, so that helps too. But it's.
Do you get a charge from being in Manhattan right now? And it's like, I know
my pulse is racing. I'm scared.
Like, what are you scared of though?
Not scared is not the right word. I'm anxious.
Right. There's a lot of action.
I have high anxiety happening.
And you used to cop in Harlem and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you cop on the Lower East Side too, or
never? I never did. I never could. I never knew where to go.
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
No, of course not. Neither am I. I was like, should I tell places to show how much I know the city? I was like, no, what the fuck?
Right. And the last time you copped, where and when were you?
Poughkeepsie.
Yeah. Did you say Po-Town?
Yep.
Do people say that?
Yeah. People say Po-Town. Down on the South Street, which is Murder Row, they call it.
And you bought dope there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy world.
Yeah, crazy.
Mike, I can't. And what about the band? I know you talked to Josh. Do you talk to the other guys or no?
Not yet. I totally randomly ran into this Claudia, the singer, at a show in Brooklyn. Not one of their shows or even a musical show. It was more of a theater thing. And it was... Okay, so that fucking moment, I went out and got drunk after. That affected me so much. I wasn't like counting days or anything. I had a lot of clean time. What happened? I ran into him. We talked for 5 minutes, and it just emotionally affected me. I was trashed. I got drunk and I cried. That's what I did, and I felt like shit the next day. And
And that was the last time you spoke to him.
Yes, yeah. I talked to Josh regularly, but I was straight with Josh. And I told him that. There's this time when I told him that, I'm just survived a fucking suicide attempt and I was getting high. And he, as he should, when talking with those guys and me, it's not the right time for us to, pave shit over or heal those wounds right now. This is a couple of years ago now. Who knows what's going to happen in the future, but there was an opportunity missed because I wasn't well again.
Well, and, everything happens. Everything happens the way it happens.
Exactly, it happens the way it happens, and it's just hard.
I hear you, man. It's crazy.
My brother calling me.
I had the same thing happen to me, like when I was at my worst, or wasn't probably at my worst. It was one of my worst, and I drew up a bundle in a shot, and I hoped I wouldn't wake up, but I wouldn't. I knew I would though. Like, did you think it was really going to take you out?
I did. Yeah, that day I did. Yeah.
And you were
most of the time. No, most of the time that's exactly my experience. That time I was feeling the hopelessness so acutely in that moment of having started to use again. And I could not imagine going through the early recovery, all of that again, and also just wasn't satisfied with where I was. That's what took me out at that moment, was I was not happy. I wasn't doing anything, and I was just in a deep depression. And I went out, and that was as probably as worst as I've ever gotten. Even with considering the crime and everything, that was the lowest. That was the only time I've ever considered, like, actually that being an option. And it really was that day. And that's fucking crazy, because that's totally not how I feel.
Well, listen, I appreciate you being honest. I really appreciate you coming in.
Yo, thank you for having me. I hope this isn't too dark. And I hope we can do this again, and we'll talk about the funny shit, because
it's
believe
dark.
you me, there's some funny shit. But there's a big elephant in my room.
It's important. It's important to have this talk. And
yeah, 100%.
And I appreciate it, man.
Well, I'm very happy to be here. Happy to meet you, brother.
Right on, me too.
Many more.
All right. So, did you know that before we get there, first, we are joined again by the lovely, vivacious author, unlicensed advice columnist, and notorious humble bragger, Erin Carr. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
How's it feel?
It feels great, except I feel like I told you a minute ago, I feel like I keep losing my voice. So if it starts to crack a la Peter Brady, you'll know why.
Michael Todd was worried about that. In fact, the first and most interesting thing before we unpack a little bit of the experience, Michael Todd was a heavy hitter in he really was willing to share vulnerability and shame. But just to fucking rat him out for a second, he's the first person that came in here. He asked me to make him herbal tea. He asked me to make him herbal tea, and then he told me I didn't need to heat up the water, that I could just run hot water in the sink, and that would be good enough.
Oh, that feels like sad tea.
Very sad. Sad tea.
Yeah.
That's like an Indian kind of clothing, a sati.
Sad tea.
Now, so how you been? What's going on?
I'm okay.
How about that humble bragging comment on Twitter?
Well, it's so funny because when you line them all up like that, I guess it does sound like that.
And you're like, oh yeah, doesn't everybody go to Hawaii with Willie Nelson?
I never went to Hawaii with Willie Nelson.
Lucas Nelson?
No Lucas Nelson either.
Did you go?
No Nelsons of any kind.
Did you ever
I did go to Hawaii, but not with them.
No Nelsons? Did
No
you go
Nelsons.
to Shemp Gordon's restaurant? Shep Gordon, Supermensch?
No.
Did you play pool with Woody Harrelson in Hawaii?
No. I didn't do anything.
Did you explore volcanoes with Paul Simon and Edie Brickell?
Totally. 100%.
You did?
No. I
Just
did
Edie
not.
Brickell?
Just Edie Brickell. No.
But before we get to the Michael Todd story, there's a weird other bit of dopey trivia involved in Michael Todd's story, which is that his buddy and bandmate, Josh Eppard, was a dopey guest, and we kind of talked about that he had reached out independently of knowing that Josh Eppard had been on Dopey. But what happened after that was, for DopeyCon 2, right, I wanted to put an all-star hip-hop group together. Oh, yeah. And Josh Eppard is a rapper under the name Weird Science. And he has a pretty big rap career under the name Weird Science. And I wanted to set up a Dopey all-star rap group of Josh Eppard, Weird Science, this guy Kolichi, who's this big-time recovery rapper guy, and maybe Danny Boy O'Connor or Slane. Slane was right there. He would have done it, but at the time it was just, in the end, it was going to be Josh and Kolichi. And then Josh sent me a verse, and the verse was pretty fiery. It was great, but it was just about drug addiction. It wasn't about Dopey.
Right.
And I was like, do you think you can add some stuff about like Big Bird and chocolate chip cookies and praying mantises? And he was like, no. He's like, I'm going to use this verse for my record. And that was the last time I talked to him. And that was the end of our relationship. But he told Michael Todd to say hello. So it seems like me and Josh, if Josh is listening, hello, Josh, I apologize. I think you're a great rapper. I just wanted you to talk about chocolate chip cookies in the verse. Dopey.
So, and Josh is the only one that Michael talks to from the band. It sounded like.
So it seems.
Yes.
And Michael...
That made me a little sad for him that there's... I hope that...
Dude, I mean, the whole story.
I hope that, yeah. I mean, but I hope that at some point they're able to have some sort of resolution there. It feels a little unresolved.
If Coheed and Cambria make it to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and I'll say that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is going to be needing bands down the road, Michael Todd is going to get to play with Coheed and Cambria in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Because they always have all the old members.
Yeah.
So, like, that would be some kind of, like...
Resolution.
Yeah. But I also think that, like, when we make Dopey, right, I want it to be... in my mind, it's like Mark Maron show or fucking Joe Rogan show. But in reality, it's a bunch of drug addicts who are trying to get their shit together.
Right.
Or like, and Michael Todd is like the realest of the fucking real. And he's willing to be vulnerable and to be super honest. And he doesn't have his fucking shtick lined up in a row. And like, there's something about that that's like just really refreshing and real and like painful. But it's the kind of pain that reminds me of, you know, seizing on the floor more than having a podcast. You know what I mean?
Right. And I mean, he affected you.
He affected me. Did he affect me or affect me?
Affected you.
How would he effect me? If he was going to effect me,
he wouldn't effect
he couldn't
you. He would
effect
have
me.
had an effect on you.
So how do you effect anybody?
You don't.
What's the difference between effect and affect? Like, I guess it's a special effect?
Well, a special effect, yeah.
So you're
you effect change.
How do you effect change?
Well, that's just a word that you use.
What's the difference between effect and effect?
I don't know. I honestly don't have an answer for you. I just know the rule.
All right.
And yeah.
So what else?
Sound really there's my humble brag.
I feel really good about this moment. So let's go to the.
I have to say, I feel like half the time you're just trying to catch me in shit that I don't know.
Well, I think you're Ask Aaron. You're an expert. You know stuff. Willie Nelson.
No, my whole actually, it's not now, but my original tagline, because I had a blog called Rarely Wrong Aaron.
Nice.
Which was because that's what a couple of my friends had that nickname because I would know like random trivia. But the tagline for my blog was Rarely Wrong, Seldom Right.
Okay. You know what I would love to do is I would love to do like a trivia game.
Yeah.
And see how rarely wrong you really are.
Oh, I'm sure. My brain has deteriorated with age. I'm fucking old.
Well, you're my age.
Yeah.
I look much older than you. Let's go to the
I'm going to be older than you in a fucking 9 days. My birthday is a week from Saturday.
What year were you born in?
I was born at the end of 73.
Oh, you're older than me.
I look younger.
You don't have a gray beard?
I don't have a gray beard.
Wow, so you think I look old?
No. I just said that I think I look younger than you.
I think you look younger than me,
but
too.
That doesn't mean that you look old.
What do you think about my long beard?
I think you should trim it a little bit.
You think it's too long?
Yeah.
We're like, oh, shit, Dave's looking a little bit homelessy.
No, I mean, I wouldn't have thought about it unless you drew my attention to it.
Which I did.
But only because I've been watching some of the Good Morning Dopies, I've seen that you were more closely shaven in some of the videos.
My dad was on this morning.
I haven't watched today's yet.
And my dad, who's so self-centered, was like, you and Aaron should talk about my Good Morning Dopey. That's what he wanted us to talk about.
Oh, and I didn't watch it yet. You should have told me.
Well, it's better this way. Let's go to the Ask Aaron notes.
Okay, my notes. Okay, so there were a couple things. First, you guys talked about it's not a Lou Reed song. It's a Velvet Underground song.
Well, Lou Reed wrote it.
Yes, he did. When you guys were talking about that, first of all, I always really loved that song. And I got into the Velvet Underground because I was obsessed with Andy Warhol when I was in elementary school and then discovered them through Andy Warhol. When I was probably, I don't know, I want to say 11 or 12 years old. It was before I had tried heroin. I was in New York visiting my dad.
You're such an early bloomer. It's insane.
I know.
You got into Andy Warhol in elementary school?
Well, yeah.
How does that even happen?
Because I had gone to MoMA or something and seen like the soup cans and like the Marylands. And it was like, ooh, that's so cool.
It is cool though.
You know? So then I got like a couple of books about him and then I bought the record, the Velvet Underground record with the Warhol banana on it because it was Warhol. And then I got a subscription to Details magazine because it was like a New York nightlife magazine at that time in the 80s, and started learning about, like, this was before Basquiat died. So like Basquiat was in there and like all this
At
stuff.
age 11, you're interested in fucking Andy Warhol, Basquiat, and you're doing heroin.
I wasn't doing heroin at 11.
You're the earliest bloomer I've ever heard of. 13, you did heroin.
13, I did heroin.
At your bat mitzvah. You did heroin in the bathroom at your bat mitzvah? Is that the story?
I didn't have one.
You were in your pre-contemplative Jew period?
Yes, totally.
But that's okay. So what about it?
So I was in New York visiting my dad. I get into a cab, and that song comes on. I don't know if he was listening to like the radio or if it was a cassette. And he was a weird looking guy, like kind of long hair, and he had big glasses on. And we were going down 9th Avenue from the Upper West Side, going down 9th Avenue really fast. It was summer. The windows were open. I was going down to St. Mark's Place because I was already into like looking at, I was probably 12. I don't think I was 11.
It's crazy.
And I just remember the windows were open and I knew the song because I had the album, and I just was like sitting there like transfixed in the back seat thinking like, oh, are we going to crash? But it was also kind of magical, like just the going down 9th Avenue and like hot air coming in the windows and this like wild kind of cab driver, and he had the music really cranked up. Maybe that was like a formative moment for me.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
It's like fucking, I was
That's
12.
why I did heroin.
I was like 12 watching like the Thundercats, eating jelly sandwiches. It's like nothing was happening.
Zooming past your apartment.
Like nothing was happening when I was 12, but you were fucking, well, I remember the first time I heard heroin was definitely in the Doors movie. Definitely.
Oh yeah, it was in the Doors movie.
That
was a lot later.
Yeah, well, I mean, I still barely had done drugs at that point.
right.
I was like,
You must have been like 19.
no,
when that
I think
came out.
I was like 16, 17 when the Doors movie came out.
No.
Yeah, I remember. I went to see it. I went to see it on 8th Street at the 8th Street Playhouse. My English teacher, Mrs. Lawrence, was there. You're going to see it's 1990 that the Doors movie came
I
out.
don't think so.
All right, well, great. Ask Aaron. Ask Aaron, what year did the Doors movie come out?
Let's see. 1991.
All right.
I guess you were right.
I guess so. Maybe we should call it Ask Dave. But then I got into drugs. Like I watched the Doors movie and I was like, I should do drugs. Like that. I was like, I should do drugs. I still don't wash my pants because of the Doors movie. Because she's like, Jim, you haven't washed your leathers in 6 weeks. So I still don't wash my jeans because of that movie. And my hair, I stopped washing my hair to look like him.
This is a total non sequitur, but did you watch the Val Kilmer documentary?
Yes.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh my God.
It's good, right?
Powerful stuff.
Yeah, okay.
It's crazy. The Val Kilmer documentary is one of the most painful films I've ever seen. Oh my God. You got to see it.
That sounds awesome. One of the most
I'm
films.
such a fan of the Doors movie, of him as Jim Morrison. I'm so into it. I watched that movie, like Woodstock and the Doors. I watched hundreds of times to the tune of I was there. I was in the movie. I watched it so many times. And but then with me and the Velvet Underground was I never really cared. But when I got to purchase, like everyone listened to the Velvet Underground at SUNY Purchase, and what affected me about the Velvet Underground was the music, the drums, the bass, and the guitar had this perfect rock and roll jangliness that I wanted. That's what I wanted my whole world to be, was rock and roll jangliness like the Velvet Underground. And I was still disconnected from the drugs. I was just a stoner and I tripped a lot. I wasn't looking for it, but it was probably that same thing. Even if you're in the 12-year-old in the cab or you're in college getting into it, it's like, you're on that path.
That's the thing I always say about like art, is that it's a reflection of the experience of being human. So I think that things that resonate with us.
Did you see the Velvet Underground documentary on Apple TV?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
Oh my, you have to watch it.
I know.
It's all Andy. But you know what it isn't?
My neighbor is like the head of nonfiction at Apple TV too, and she told me about it, and I was like, I need to watch it.
What it isn't is it's not dopey. It's not about drugs. It's weird. It's weirdly not about drugs.
Well, but they were so much more than drugs.
I know, but drugs are a huge portion.
Another side note is I love Street Hassle so much.
I never listened to that record. That was Michael Imperioli's favorite Lou Reed record.
The song Street Hassle on Street Hassle.
I don't even know it.
With Bruce Springsteen's like spoken word that comes in at the end. You've never heard it?
No, I guess.
Okay, when we're done recording, we're going to listen to it.
I'll listen to it right now.
All right. It's beautiful, but it's really long. You can't listen to it right now.
How long is it?
It's like 13 minutes long.
I kind of feel shitty that I never listened to Street Hassle.
It's a really, really, really amazing record.
I'm like, I am all in, and I'm on a path, like with music, and I'm all in. Like I know every Velvet Underground record, except they did a record without Lou Reed. They did After Loaded. They did a record. I never listened.
I
to
never
that
listened
one.
to that either.
But then I didn't listen to the Lou Reed. I listened to Transformer, and it's a great record. And I didn't listen to another Lou Reed record until New York. Like I didn't listen to any of them.
That's interesting.
And I was such a Velvet Underground fan.
Right.
Isn't that weird?
I think you'd really like Street Hassle.
I will listen to it.
Yeah.
What else you got on this list?
He mentioned like taking Norcos recreationally, and I was like, do people take Norcos recreationally?
Yes.
Norcos aren't very good.
I never took them recreationally or prescribed, but I've heard people talk about that before.
Because, my Dr. D, who I used to go to
Yeah,
like
Dr. D,
detox,
sure.
that was like one of the things because it was like supposed to be like a replacement for
You like
the
it when I
heroin.
say Dr. D.
I do. It's good. Yeah. I mean, that really was the initial of his last name. He can't be alive anymore. There's no way.
It looks like that. So my dad just walked in. So check it out.
Hi.
My dad walked in. I asked him to leave so we could record. Come here. I'm talking. What are you doing? The second you leave, the fucking guy comes to decaulk the bathroom. And guess who didn't watch your daily reflection today?
I didn't know.
He starts talking to the sky.
Hello, everybody. I just walked in and my son already is bothering me. So.
Dad, tell them what we did today.
Oh, wow. I'm going to be like worldwide. I'm showing people how to make a pastrami sandwich. Do you think what kind of a big deal is that? How to make a pastrami?
He was terrible.
I mean, why does anybody...
A mannequin has got more charm than you in that thing.
You're ridiculous.
Why does anybody need to know how to make a pastrami? It's simple. I mean, so they have to do a whole video on that?
Terrible.
I bet there are people that make a pastrami sandwich incorrectly.
The pastrami in the video had more charm than my dad. Laying on the plate. Dad, come on, say something. Come on.
Just to hear insults here? No. When is it going to be on?
I don't know. Somebody wrote a comment on Instagram that you are better looking than me, but thank God I got your charm.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's good for you.
That is good. That is.
What about the November 11th, today's daily reflection? It's really very serious.
Dad, today is Friday, though.
Oh, well, sorry. You have to look at November 11th's daily reflections and make your comments on that.
My dad is like, he's hooked on the fucking... Dad, come here, be honest. How much is your self-worth now linked to the comments of your appearances on Dopey and now Good Morning Dopey?
Well,
be honest, please.
I certainly like good comments, and like my son, I don't like bad comments.
No one's ever made a bad comment.
I don't think I was going to say I've never seen a bad comment.
Well, that's good. Let's keep it up. But yeah, that's good.
Did you ever hear the notorious one-star review about white privilege?
No.
Dad, do you want to read it to Aaron? Here, come on, this will be good.
Can I scream loud from far away and say, no, I'm not reading it again?
Come on.
No, sorry.
You don't want Aaron to hear it?
No.
Come on.
Leave your poor dad.
I'm going to read it.
You read it.
All right. By a privileged white man for privileged white men, like my dad. I sometimes... I'm not going to do it. We've read this one
5,000 times.
many, many times on the show. Now, okay, back to your list.
Okay, so that was another note. The other thing that I thought was interesting is when he talked about the reasons that he doesn't go to 12-step meetings anymore because of the specific meetings he was going to. He said, I wrote this down, that young girls, he was sick of seeing young girls being taken advantage of by men with a lot of time in 12-step meetings, and the power dynamics and the shame of people who like made a mistake and came back and didn't feel welcome. And that really like struck me, because I've talked to you about that before, that was a part of the problem for me in Los Angeles with the 12-step meetings I was going to, are both of those things.
Well, it's like I have a friend who recently relapsed, and he was like a big shot in his 12-step meeting, and now he can't get honest because like he can't get honest. You know, he can't be anonymous. You know, there is no like denying that the people in the group are going to have a reaction, and now he's going to go to another fellowship. But that seems like a reasonable thing to do. I mean,
well, but I think you're going to find that within different fellowships.
No, but if you show up at NA after, let's say you get sober in AA and you're sober for 7 years and you make some decisions that aren't necessarily the most sober, and you need to start your day count over, and you go to NA and you say, this is my first day here, they're not going to treat you the way the people at AA would have treated you for being there and fucking up.
I was going to both NA. I mean, in LA, you just kind of went to, I just went to both. It wasn't like a lot of people went to both.
No, but my point is he gets to start over.
Right.
You know, and it's, I mean, but like.
Here's my thing is that, like, I remember once there was a guy I knew who relapsed, and all these other guys I knew, they didn't even have that much fucking time. Like 3 years, 4 years, were like, oh, you know, like they weren't going to let him come to the men's meeting because he had to have like a certain number of days before he could come. And he was feeling really isolated. And I yelled at my friends because I was like, dude, that was you 2 years ago. You fucking relapsed like 100 times, and you're not going to, like, he's asking to go to a meeting. He's sober. He might be on day 2, but that's you. You're that guy. And that you're turning your back on him is fucked up. I really think so. And I know that they were frustrated that he had relapsed a lot, but like, I don't know.
I think it's like when people are involved, people are flawed.
Yes, for
and
sure.
And it's like people hold a fellowship beyond the scope of the people that run it, and it's just the people. And it's like, I would imagine, I think that if I relapsed, right, and the group that I go to right now, right, if I went back to that group, I think they would just be incredibly supportive.
Of course, but would they be if you relapsed the way you relapsed when you were younger?
Meaning what?
Like if you came back, like you relapsed a few times a year?
I think it would be frustrating. There's a dude that goes to my meeting who's never really gotten any time together, and he's always in a state of relapse. And I think it's just frustrating. I don't think it's like, I mean, everyone knows he's a fuck up, but he is a fuck up. But if you're constantly relapsing, I mean, when I was constantly relapsing, I was a total fuck up.
But you know, I mean, like, not to be all cliche, but like, you know, that like there, but before the grace of God go I always think of that, because like that could be me so easily.
But so what? You're still a fuck up.
My point is that like I just have, it's like that thing of like we talked about before. It's like I saw a lack of empathy and compassion from people consistently, and that bothered me, which is why I needed to go get like help from like professionals rather than I needed a different path for me.
The lay people weren't good enough for Ask Aaron Carr.
Stop.
But I'm saying
I was constantly relapsing.
Well, I mean, like, I hear you. And it's like, I feel terribly when anyone doesn't have a good experience around 12-step. But obviously, it's a very small percentage of people that actually have success with it.
Right.
But it totally saved my life. So I like, I'm here and I'm saying, like, I don't talk about I guess I do talk about
You're doing the daily reflection.
But I never say that I'm a member of any fellowship.
No. I know that.
I'm like the Orthodox Jew that chalks the neighborhood and turns on all the lights. I don't give a fuck.
But it's
I have like the robot driving car or something.
I don't think it's like a shock to anyone that you're in a 12-step fellowship.
Listen, I may or I may not be in a 12-step fellowship. And it may or may not rhyme with gay Ray. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's not the point.
But anyway, I appreciated hearing that from a man who recognized the thing, because as we've talked about before, you know, yes, like it was fun because there was a social aspect to meetings when I first was in the rooms at 23, but there was also like super predatory thing with like guys who had like 15 years sober or 12 years sober or 8 years sober, whatever. And I'm like 30 days showing up 23 years old. And those are the people that are like, you know, like, let me get your number. Let's go for coffee. Let's go to Swingers after a meeting.
Right. Let's go to Swingers.
You don't remember Swingers?
Oh, the movie I remember.
No, the coffee shop on Beverly.
Was that from the movie?
No.
It has no relation to the movie?
It was before the movie. I think it was there before the movie. Swingers, it was there forever. I think they closed during the pandemic.
No, I think they're still open, but I always thought they called it Swingers because it was in the movie.
No. The where they shot the coffee shop scene was at the Cafe 101 on Franklin.
All right, take it easy. It's all right. 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 Humble brag, L.A. Aaron.
Stop.
But let's just slow down for a second.
Yeah.
I think to be a young, attractive woman at AA, I can imagine that being different than being like an unattractive man at AA. I can imagine that the two things are very different.
It was just, it's not, again, it's not like I didn't want like attention or didn't want that
but
kind of validation.
that's not like great for spiritual development.
No. And it's that thing of like, as I got older, seeing guys who were like in their mid 30s with time kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's not like nobody like pressured me into anything or anything. It's just that like they didn't have great boundaries with someone who had no boundaries. And they, in their mid 30s with that much time, fucking be an example. Don't be that guy.
Right. Well, it's people are weak.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've had some moments that I'm not proud of myself
all
in
have.
these situations.
Right.
That's something that it's a terrible story that I will never tell on Dopey. Never.
Oh, well, thanks.
Well, the point is that like we all want to be perfect and we all want to never do the wrong shit. And like, and I'm not defending predators in AA or anything.
I hear you.
You know, and like, it's just, I think it's hard for everybody. And that's why the doctrine of men with the men, women with the women, you know, don't use it as a dating service, blah, blah, blah. Those ideas are incredibly helpful. If you're going to a 12-step meeting and you're a young woman, like, I would stay with women. And if you're a man, leave the women alone. You know what I mean? Like, that's like the way to start.
Right.
I think that's a way to kind of go through it.
Right.
But I hear you. I hear you. It's a slippery slope. It really is. And you just want people to be successful, and you don't want people to be predatory, and you want people to have a good time and not blow it because they're having a good time.
I will also tell you, I can't say this on Dopey, but I will tell you a story about an actor who had extremely predatory behavior with young women in LA.
It was Robert Downey Jr., right?
No.
Was it Val Kilmer?
No.
When he had the voice?
No, it's not anyone. You're not going to guess who it is.
So I guess to sum up, if you go to 12 steps, be as cool as you can be.
Yes.
And just do your thing. Be careful.
Do your best.
Let your freak flag fly. Now, what's up with Ask Aaron? What do you got?
I think you have the questions.
I have the questions. I do.
You do. So you can pick. I brought a few, and you can pick one.
All right.
Just pick the one on top. It doesn't matter.
All right, let's do it. Hi, Aaron. I heard your Dopey episode. It was super inspiring. Thank you. Weird, kind of greater than 3, which means heart. I saw your Ask Aaron post today, and it reminded me of my situation. I need help. So I accidentally discovered that my 6 years boyfriend has blocked me on Instagram. I asked him why, and he said he deactivated his account, which obviously was a lie because I checked from another account. I gave him a week. It's so dark in here. I gave him a week without confronting him, wishing this was just a mistake, a stupid thing for a random reason, and that he would correct it. I wasn't even going to ask for an explanation or an apology, but a week went by and he didn't unblock my account, so I openly asked him why he blocked me. He said he had so many reasons that he certainly dislikes talking to me about problems. He then went on to give these excuses. He hates that I suggest who he follows and who he doesn't follow. He hates my investigations. He overall hates getting in arguments with me. I was shocked. This is a great question. I was shocked, hurt, and disappointed regarding the fact that for the past year and a half, I hadn't said a single word about who he follows, even though some of them make me uncomfortable, and he knows that. But because I admit having trust issues, I held myself back from doing it. I'm really lost. I understand why he should do this and justify it with so many invalid and rude reasons. What should I do?
I mean, I'm not going to give you an answer you like, person, because...
Leave him alone. Let him do his own Instagram.
I think
he set a nice boundary.
I understand why he doesn't want you up in his Instagram. Now, unless he's sliding into DMs, who cares who he follows or likes their posts or whatever? My husband follows.
How do you slide into a DM? Aren't you just DMing? What is sliding? Where's the slide?
Well, it's because it's all slick, right? Woo.
But it's not slide. You're just messaging.
I know, right?
He's not sliding.
If he's messaging people,
can you slide? What's the slide?
I don't know. It's just being sneaky.
But it's just messaging. If
yes,
I message you, I'm not sliding into your DMs. I'm messaging you.
It's an expression. It's a turn of phrase.
I know. All right, continue, please.
So, I mean, what I was going to say is, my husband follows a lot of, attractive women on Instagram,
yes.
and I fully trust he's not
sliding,
messaging or sliding into
no
DMs.
Sliding.
I don't freaking care. I don't have any interest in monitoring my partner's social media activity. If I feel the need, then there's either a problem within our relationship or a problem with me.
Well, it sounds to me like you don't have the issue of needing to control them.
No.
So I certainly do not look at what my partner may or may not be doing in social media at all.
Right.
But I am perfect. I have no cares in the world. Everything is perfect for me. But I know, I'm not going to name any names, but I know some people who are very concerned where their partners might look at social media. And the truth is, it's always Pandora's box. It's like if you start looking and
you'll find something.
And if you put weight into what they do, it's going to go bad.
I actually get this question a lot.
I'm sure.
And it's always something of oh, he's my boyfriend's liking posts or leaving comments. We had a question like this before, I think. And yeah, I mean, I think you're going to drive yourself crazy.
I think,
or maybe you and I just talked about it.
I think I read that question. I think with something like this it's better just to keep your, Long Island AA, the greatest expression of Long Island, just keep your fucking mouth shut.
Right.
That's Long Island AA.
Right.
And it's I got into a fight this morning and I heard it, just keep your fucking mouth shut. And I didn't. And of course I was stressed. Everything worked out. But we got into a fight because I couldn't keep my mouth shut.
I think a long time ago, my husband told me, was it his dad that gave him this advice? Somebody gave him the advice that just don't say the next thing.
Right.
Just don't say it.
Well, your husband seems very, very bright and slick with that kind of shit.
He's very he's not the guy that's going to pick some dumb fight.
Right. I'm that guy.
Or keep it going.
I knew for hours this morning not to do it and I did it anyway.
Right.
I just, that's how it's how I roll. It's how I slide. That's what I do.
I slide into
the argument. Well, this was another groundbreaking episode, Ask Aaron Carr. Did you have a good time?
I did. I always do. It's fun.
Well, there you go.
I mean, we could probably sit here and talk for 2 hours, but I don't think anyone would listen that long.
Maybe on the next Patreon, you'll find Ask Aaron Carr talking with me for 2 hours.
About dumb shit.
Yeah, well, that's always the best kind of stuff to talk about. But thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Michael Todd, for getting super honest. Please send in fucking emails and voicemails. Any used email or voicemail will get a new pair of Dopey socks. And stay strong, Dopey Nation, and fucking toodles for Chris.
Toodles.
I want to take a walk around the world. I wonder would it do me any good? Until I get some money in my pocket, then I guess I'll just have to walk around my neighborhood. But I want to be good so bad. Want to be so good, so bad, so bad. I wanna be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And I wanna take a ride up in the sky. Watch as aeroplanes just pass me by. And I wanna see a Lear jetliner take a dive, just to show all of these people what it means to be alive. But I wanna be good so bad. Wanna be so good, so bad, so bad. I wanna be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. And my shadow's getting smaller and smaller. And it's high noon where I stand. Shadow's getting smaller and smaller. And it's high noon where I stand. And I wonder would they pay it any mind when I leave this busted city far behind. I'll take the high road, however far it winds, because peace and love are very, very, very hard to find. And I wanna be good so bad. Wanna be good so bad, so bad. I wanna be good so bad. Bad desire's all I ever had. Damn it, all these suckers make me mad. And it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had. And these suckers make me mad, and I wanna call my dad, and it's all I ever had, and it's all I ever had, and it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had. And these suckers make me mad, and it's all I ever had, and I wanna call my dad, and it's all I ever had, and it's all I ever had. And it's all I ever had.